everyone, welcome to the Rock Your Role event. And today I have a job to introduce or explain about the role counter. You might be wondering, what is the meaning of counter, right? It sounds so strange. Well, it's easy to remember. It's because whenever someone is offered this role, their usual response is, why me? No, of course, I'm just joking. Actually, being an counter is very useful, not only for other people, actually for us as well. For example, being the counter can improve our observational and listening skills. And of course, without these two skills, there will be no public speaking skills. That's why it's really important and it's really useful to take this counter role from time to time. And of course, in Toastmasters, we like serving others, right? And to be able to serve others as role takers, we have to know the purpose, right? So the purpose for this counter is to note any overused words or filler sounds used as a crutch by anyone who speaks during the meeting. Words might be inappropriate interjections such as, well, and, but, and then, something like that. When it comes to sounds, it can be in the, for example, can be like, or just like what I did just now. You also might be wondering, okay, but, you know, in Toastmaster, is it that important to know about our filler sounds? Well, I can share your sentiment because during my LBT or life before Toastmasters, I never really cared about filler sound or sound, all of those sounds, right? However, makes me feel like there's something wrong with this person's speech. I cannot pinpoint what it was. Something really that sound unprepared or not convincing enough. But during life after Toastmasters, which is now, I became a bit self-conscious or pay more attention to all of these filler sounds whenever someone speaks on the radio maybe, or in a Toastmasters meeting, or any public speaking engagement. I will try to somehow realize, okay, that person makes a lot of sounds, or a lot of filler words, or a lot of awkward pauses. So that makes that person sounds doubtful about the topic or less convincing that he or she should be. So I become aware of what these filler sounds can cause, right? And I hope as the counter, you feel the same way. Now, we also need to know about why do we use crutch words. According to Jen Doll, and he wrote this essay on The Atlantic, he suggests that we use them to give us time to think and also to accentuate our meaning. Although sometimes it's counterproductive, we actually make the meaning becoming blur, right? Instead of accentuating. And also for these words somehow pop up in our head, or some words are lodged in our head and comes out whenever we're lost for words. There are some people who have, as the filler that lodged in their head. I know some people have apa in bahasa. Whenever the person needs to think, it would comes out like apa. What is it? Something like that. And these words somehow lodge in their head. These are the examples of why we use crutch words, although we know they are counterproductive. Now, how to rock your role as the counter? First, you need to prepare a copy of the counter slot. I know from time to time, we just use a piece of paper. When it's emergency, I think it's fine. But if we have enough time, I think it's also important to provide a counter log. There are several versions of counter log that I see from time to time, but I will show you the one from Toastmasters, the official one from Toastmasters later on. And of course, after you get this counter log, you need to record all of these overlong pauses, overused words, and filler sounds that these speakers rely upon too often. Like, for example, okay, you know, all of these words. And then, of course, at the earlier part of the meeting, you'll be asked to explain about what your job is. You need to explain why counter matters. And at the end of the speech, during at the end of the meeting, during the evaluation portion of the meeting, you will be called again to report your findings. So you need to report your observations. Sometimes if you get a chance to share it on the screen, then it's fine. You don't have to read all of the findings one by one. Like for example, speaker A, 5 3 buts, 4, and then you don't have to do that. They can usually watch it or read it themselves. However, you also need to summarize the findings. So what is the most frequent filler words during the day? Is it okay, or do people tend to make long pauses when they think, or what is it that you see after you look at the big picture from all of your findings? Now, this is the example of the counter script and log. Like I said earlier, you will be asked to explain about your job. You don't have to worry about it because there's a set way to explain about your job. However, you can also use your own words as long as you do not deviate from the actual job of an counter. So this is the easy script about how to explain the job and the duty of an counter. And this is the table where you can easily see on the screen the most frequent words that usually pop up. But of course, not everyone have the same type of fillers. For example, my fillers is usually okay, but okay is not there. You can put it in the other table right there. And if you want to download it, it's easy. I put the description, or I put the link on the right side of this slide, and I'm sure you will get this slide later. However, you need to remember, not all fillers are created equal. It is important to remember that some of those fillers do have meanings, so they don't usually serve always as the filler words. Sometimes they do actually have meaning, or the speakers are intended to use those words. So how do we tell the difference, right? If there are speakers who use so, but, as, all of these words, and then, but they actually have meanings, try to think of it like this. If you remove this word from that sentence, will it change the meaning or not? If you remove the word and the sentence still feel the same, the meaning doesn't experience any changes, then these words would be counted as the filler words. For example, I know a person who usually starts every sentence with the word so. Now, we know then from this phenomena that so would be her filler word, right? Because if we remove the word so, then it doesn't change the content of her sentences. However, to make it easier, there are two things to remember. When the word is overused, you heard it a lot of times in the speech, or when it's meaningless. So when you remove the words, then it doesn't change the meaning. Bottom line, these two things that can count as the filler words. Another thing to remember is, first, it is important to deliver the counter report in a positive and supportive way, just like any other evaluation in the meeting. It's really hard sometimes for people to take criticism or feedback when it comes to especially when their is over the roof, like more than 20, something like that. And no matter how you catch and report those filler words, sometimes there are members who feel intimidated or shy after they listen to your report, right? Make sure, remember, and emphasize the importance of your role. It is important for them to know what these filler sounds cause to their speech, and this is your job to tell them. But of course, you still have to make them comfortable also with the way you deliver your finding as the counter. So that is it. That would be the end of my job today, to describe about the counter and the duty, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much, Pipit. A round of applause for that excellent presentation. Let's have some questions for Toastmaster Pipit on the counter role. Please don't tell me people
Crystal
are.
clear, I think. No,
Yeah. So.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So. Any questions, or is it the time and everyone's getting tired? So people are holding back. Jay, go ahead, Jay.
Yes, my question is, there have been occasions when I have heard the R counter report saying something like, Jai, you had one so, one but, one end, total 3. And I know what I have said in my speech as that so, but, and and was actually required. So is it not something that our counter should know that sometimes it's not necessary to count every single one just because there was a so, but, or an and that might have been necessary in this speech? That is my question.
100% agree, Mr. Jai. Like I said earlier in the presentation, that not all filler words are created equal. There are actually words that are intended to be used, even the word so, right, and then something like that. So it's really a challenge for us as an R counter. So an R counter is not a simple job. You actually have to be analytical and you have to be very critical as well, whether you actually need that words or not, and you will be the judge. So it's actually kind of fun. So yes, R counters out there, you need to be careful and you need to be analytical when you count whether that so was actually needed or not needed. Sorry.
So, Pipit, now that we have come to the end of the time, because I see Halina's red light is going on, we thank you for that wonderful presentation, and I'll ask